the trials was always like this weird thing where, because I always felt like people were scared to do it.
Yeah,
But again, once you took it on the East Coast, you doubled the numbers, then tripled
yeah,
it, and you've increased it because you have the familiarity in the community out in the East Coast. People know you; they know it's going to be, like you said, you're a man of your word, so they know there's going to be no nonsense and it's going to be done right. So, talk a little bit about the trials, and not necessarily your history because you kind of touched on that, but like why is it so important for guys out there to try and not be afraid? In my opinion, like a guy like Nicky Rod is the perfect example of any grappler that should be going to the trials. And I'll tell you one thing: I spent some time at Flow headquarters in Flow Sports in Austin, and I know that there's wrestlers in the wrestling community. The guys at Flow Wrestling were telling me that there's guys in the wrestling community that are itching to do their trials now. So you got to be ready, and when you end up doing yours, you're gonna have a lot of American wrestlers coming out. But let's talk a little bit about the trials and like even like Nicky Rod and a little bit about that story there.
you know. Oh, for sure. Like you are right. You know what? And I think the people are scared to do them sometimes because if you get a big name, like we seen it in the trials in 2015. Josh Hinger lost
Yeah,
after he was a black belt world champion, and I don't even know who he lost to. I don't think he was a super famous guy. But you know what? Like credit to Josh, he came back the next trials, won the trials, and
yeah,
then placed in ADCC. But a lot of guys, they don't want to lose to a no-name guy. They
yeah,
don't want to lose to a Nicky Rod.
yeah,
And you know what the thing is? A lot of guys don't have like that jiu-jitsu level to know that they can get by a tough wrestler.
yeah.
Like they you have to be perfect. Like and we saw Tex Johnson in the trials. In the last trials, he stopped. It was a Wade Hudson, the world class wrestler, one of the most winningest wrestlers of all time. He ripped through everybody. Wade. He actually beat Nicky Rod that trials by like 15 points. Then
Wow,
Tex submitted him in 15 seconds.
wow.
There's like levels to this shit. And it
Yeah,
depends who you're getting, who you're going against. Like you'll get a lot of wrestlers to go in there and do very well because stylistically it depends who they're fighting, right? If
mhm,
a wrestler goes against DJ Jackson, as great as DJ Jackson is, right? His style for jiu-jitsu is wrestling.
mhm.
Like look at Orlando. Orlando got, beat up pretty good by Nicky Rod.
Yep.
But Orlando, he beat me on a decision because I couldn't take him down. But now if we took a high school All-American wrestler and put I'm talking about like the best high school wrestler,
Yeah,
heavyweight, and we put them in the heaviest weight, stylistically, they're going to give some people some trouble,
yep,
right? But then if you put that same guy against Buchecha or Vinny, they're gonna get destroyed like a small child.
yeah,
So everything really depends on styles, right? Like we saw stylistically what Nicky was able to do to Orlando, but then what Kanon did to Nicky,
yeah,
right? Like, and Kanon and Nicky in ADCC were super close, but then they did the fight to one, and Kanon submitted him like super quick. Uh, Orlando's never gonna leg lock Nicky Rod, but Kanon was able to. But then we
yeah,
saw Nicky come back and like he was all over Vinny. He was pushing the pace against Cyborg, like turtling these guys.
yep,
And it's like stylistically, if we look at who did the best against Nicky Rod before he got tapped, it was Bruno Bastos. He did the best for 3 minutes because he was able to slow him down in the half guard. These guys don't
yeah,
get it. I don't know what they're doing with their open guard. I don't understand
yeah.
these guys. Why aren't you slowing this dude down? What are you
You have,
doing?
yeah, you have to try to
But
control them. Yeah.
Bruno didn't have the leg lock knowledge that Vinny had
Mm.
to stop the leg lock. So really, it's stylistic. And these guys who want an invite, like
Oh,
it's crazy. Like winning the
yeah,
trials, man, is like you're winning the Olympic trials.
yeah,
You're like, this is something that it's a huge accomplishment. Like one of the biggest in their life, for sure.
yeah,
Like when
yeah,
Andre Galvao talks about his accomplishments, he mentions he was a Brazilian ADCC trial champion.
mhm,
Like it's never going to leave you. But I
yeah,
think the fear of defeat for some people outweighs the possible thrill of victory.
yeah,
And I think less and less we're seeing people aren't. I mean, I think this time people know they got to compete.
Yeah.
They got to do the trials, man. That's it. Like, if you don't do the trials, there's a good chance you're not getting in.
Yeah. I think it's, for me, it's always it's the saddest thing when I see people like messaging. It's usually every ADCC, it always ends up happening. They'll message me for some reason. I'm sure you get them.
Oh, bro, nonstop.
All the ADCC refs. Hey, bro, do you know somebody? Can I get? Yeah, but I beat this guy and I beat JGF with the gi, but it was by advantage. And it's like, no one cares. You know,
No,
just go
just
do
show
the
up.
trials. Just go do it. And that's the thing, like I was saying, like Nicky Rod is a stud, Nicky Rod. But at that time, Blue Belt got silver medal in the biggest grappling tournament in the world. So that, you know, that how many years of training in jiu-jitsu do you have? Less than 2 years. Wrestling for 4 years, if that. A top level wrestler, get some good wrestling leg lock training in, he's got a great chance. And the rest, from what I understand, they don't make money in wrestling. You know, there's no real professional platform like there is in
You know
grappling.
what a lot of these wrestlers don't understand, though?
What's that?
I'll tell you what they don't get. Is what Nicky did in ADCC was not wrestling. It was a hybrid of wrestling, extreme athleticism, and extreme submission awareness.
Yep.
When you touch Nicky, he's gone. Most wrestlers are not like Nicky, and that's a fact, right? Nicky Rod also, bro, he doesn't break. You're not breaking him. Yeah. In his mind, he always believes he can win. So I think there's going to be a lot of wrestlers that do it, and I think there's going to be a lot of wrestlers that are disappointed.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, if they think they're just going to come in and just pure wrestling, bro, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to take someone down? Well, I got news for you. You got to put them on their ass for 3 seconds to score. So what are you going to do? Nicky Rod's back-taking ability is second to none.
Yeah.
You know, where that's not a wrestling thing. That's Nicky. That's who he is. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that he opened some eyes. Yeah. But if we take a look at who he is, a 240 pound, 6'3", ripped specimen freak that is probably the cockiest human to ever walk the face of the earth, that's really a hard nut to crack.
Yeah.
You know, people got to understand that shit is not easy to replicate.
Exactly. And, you know, you said it, he comes off as cocky, but you got to be confident. And when you see that, I was watching that documentary, the ADCC, you know, I was out front commentating, so I didn't hear Nicky. I just saw him compete. But we saw that documentary that Flow Grappling put out, and man, the confidence that he had, just like, I'm the fucking best. I'm out, you know what I mean? Like, just
it was everyone. Yeah, these guys don't want to compete against him.
Yeah.
They don't want to.
Yeah.
They think that he should respect him, and he doesn't. Just like Gordon. So that right there, like what he's doing is he's Muhammad Ali'ing people. So people could say what they want about martial arts and respect. And I say it too. I don't always like it. But martial arts is different than competitive martial arts.
Yeah.
Don't give me that shit about respect when you're beating your chest and screaming when you win.
Yeah.
Or when you lose.
Mm-hmm.
If you want respect, show it 100% of the time. Don't expect it if you're not giving it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, like they want to talk about Nicky. Why aren't they talking about Orlando? You know, why aren't they? When Orlando shows up with a shirt that says "Stop making whack grapplers famous," you know, like and for me, I don't care. But hey, like right there, is that not cocky? You know, is that not cocky? Or when Cyborg gave the fit when Nicky beat him, and I know he got a lot of flack for that. But at the same time, you can't really talk shit about Nicky if you're making that scene when you lose. And I love Cyborg, but I was in the same situation in 2009 against Cyborg. They scored the match for me a -1 when the match ended in Barcelona. They switched it and they gave me the negative, right? So they literally took that right out of my hands, and I walked off the mats. I didn't question it, you know.
Yeah.
Now back on Cyborg, giving him some props. The fact that he showed face after that, came back, did what he did, and won some huge events and competitions. Like, what a warrior, man! Like, they put him through so much shit, and he still shows up, and he still is among the elite, you know. And he gave Nicky Rod, you know, his toughest match that night. So it's like, I'm just saying, like, no one's perfect 100% of the time, even me. You know, like especially me. Like I make tons of mistakes, and sometimes I contradict myself. And I think everybody has to understand that's a part of it. But if you want to talk about victories and money and competition, I mean, Muhammad Ali paved the way for us, right? Then McGregor really showed what could happen when you actually back your mouth up. Gordon does the same thing, and now Nicky's kind of doing it too. So don't get it twisted. You can't just talk unless you're winning. But these guys are winning, you know? So it's like, is it my style? No. But did I take second in ADCC? No. Maybe I should have had some more, you know, fire the way he did and gave a little less respect. I know my technique is literally, I believe, as good as anyone in the world when it comes to a big guy playing guard. I don't know anyone who does it better. But at the moment, I didn't always do what I had to do, right? And I guess everyone could say that, but I say to myself, if I had that attitude, maybe it could have took me further. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade it. Like, I'm happy where I am. You know, I believe we all take a path in life, and the path that I'm looking at and the vision that I see doesn't align with the mouth that these kids have. You know what I mean? So it's a catch-22.
I hear you, brother. Well, listen, running out of time now. We talked about the trials. As if the coronavirus ends and we end up, you know, getting through this in the next few months, what's the trial date again?
November 11th. And remember, women, what I'm going to do is the official trials for women is in the West Coast. The West Coast women, the trials, there's only 8 spots for women. So understand this before you ask, and I'm going to tell you why this is the way it is. There's 8 spots for women, 16 spots for men. Therefore, there could only be 1 trials for the women because there's only 8 spots, okay? They like to hold the trials the same year as the actual event as ADCC, which will be the second trials in the West Coast. I don't necessarily know the reason, but that's just how it is, right? So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to run a trials for the women. And the winner of each division, I'm going to, out of my pocket, pay their flight, their hotel, and I know Mo will probably just waive their entry fee. And they're going to be a top seed in the West Coast ADCC trials. So if you want to compete in the East Coast, you win, your whole entire trip is on me. All right? We're all pro women. You know, we love what you ladies are doing, and we want to keep seeing you grow and do great things. We need you, you know. Otherwise, November 11th, please don't start asking me like crazy questions yet. I know it's going to happen, but just follow ADCC North America on Instagram. Follow ADCC on Facebook and ADCC North America on Facebook. ADCC North America Facebook is not very active, but ADCC North America Instagram, the moment anything is happening, it's post. All right. So there has been a post in like a week or two. We'll get another post up ASAP, and you know, just stay up to date and watch me. Like, I'll always keep you guys up to date through my own Instagram.
And the website is adcctrials.net, or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, ADCC Trials on that. And bro, shout out to you, man. Like, I gotta tell you, like, I'm so impressed by the videos you do. Like, no bullshit. Like, I think they're so educational. What you do, you're the only person who digs back and gives these athletes the respect that they deserve. So many of these kids nowadays, they don't know the Aronas. They don't know about the Arona and Tito match. They don't know about these matches that were happening that you're pulling up and you're posting and you're analyzing. Anytime you have any of that, get that shit to me. I will immediately post it.
Awesome.
If I don't like your shit, it's because I don't see it.
Okay.
I'm just like, I literally never, bro. You know what's crazy? I had an app. My Instagram. This is a funny story. My Instagram automatically, it deletes people. It deletes followers. Right. So like, I go to message Mo, and I notice I'm not following Mo, and he's not following me. Mo runs ADCC.
Yeah.
So I message him like, bro, I'm like, why aren't we following each other? He's like, well, you unfollowed me, so I unfollowed you. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I didn't unfollow you, bro. My app did this, you know? And it's funny because he even said to Gordon, he was even like, bro, why did Tom stop following me? And Gordon just was like, what are you talking about? He didn't think about it. But it's so funny how shit like that can happen. So, guys, like, listen, like, if I don't like your stuff, whatever, I truly, honest to God, don't see it.
Yeah.
Any issue I ever have with you, you know, if I ever had an issue with anybody, I'm gonna say this shit.
I hear it from you. I hear it. If you have something, I get the voice message.
You're
I get
probably
the
like,
call.
oh, fucking Tom, here we go.
It's either great news or a bad note that I'm gonna get. But either way, I love to hear it. And you know what? Like you said, talking about the legend stuff I'm trying to do. That's kind of the focus of my podcast. Is I don't want to just go after like the guys that are competing. I really want to shine light to the guys like that paved the way, like yourself, like Ricardo Almeida, like Leo Vieira, like Braulio, all the guys that were like the legends of the sport, the first champions. That's kind of the focus of my podcast, is to educate the next generation. And then my videos that I put out, I want to kind of show these amazing matches that we had from the past. So I appreciate the fact that you see it. I really do, man. That's awesome.
The fact that you put me, in the same category as these guys, like, is a very humbling thing. Like I think, like I said, I think in some areas I definitely shine more than others. But when it comes to the things that they have done, like competitively, I mean, they're just those guys are in a league of their own, man. And I'm, it's funny, man. It's crazy because I've trained with all these guys and I've been on the mats with these guys. And, I've always, like I said, man, I've never been on the mats with somebody I didn't deserve to be on the mats with. It was always toe to toe. But even talking about Braulio, like, man, some of the things that he's done, like I remember too, I know we're running out of time. I just remember, just a fun fact, Braulio, they didn't put him in the absolute in 2009. He signed up for it. They didn't sign him up. Like, he went crazy.
Oh,
They
wow.
actually pulled like a no-name guy out of the absolute to put Braulio in because he wasn't in it, and then he ended up winning it. So it's
Wow,
like,
yeah, it's stories like that, guys. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that I love to hear. Like even like the Leo Vieira Mark Kerr story. Like I remember him telling me, he's like, man, when I fought Mark Kerr, they didn't even tell me who it was. They just said, oh, it's some American. And then I looked, and it's like this 270-pound monster,
yeah.
shredded. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Anyways, guys, listen, if you're watching at home, make sure you guys follow Tom DeBlass on all the social media. He's always posting some, techniques, motivational stuff, inspirational stuff. He's the man. Go to adcctrials.net if you want to get your spot to compete at the greatest submission grappling tournament, submission fighting competition and tournament in the world. Go to the trials, guys. Do the trials like Tom said. Don't be hitting them up for invites because you're not going to get it. James Brasco, this means you. Yeah, you always do this every year.
Don't even get me started.
We won't go there.